Here's a detailed history of the Mexican-American War, 1846-1848. Background, causes of the war. 1. Manifest destiny. By the 1840s, the U.S. believed it was destined to expand across the continent to the Pacific Ocean, a belief known as manifest destiny. This idea played a big role in U.S. interest in Mexican territory. Annexation of Texas. Texas had been part of Mexico but broke away in 1836, forming the Republic of Texas. Mexico never recognized Texas independence and warned the U.S. that annexing Texas would mean war. The U.S. annexed Texas in 1845, sparking a major conflict. Border dispute. The U.S. claimed the Rio Grande as the Texas border. Mexico insisted it was the Nueces River, about 150 miles north. This disagreement set the stage for military confrontation. The war begins, 1846, April 25, 1846. Fighting broke out when Mexican troops attacked American forces in the disputed area. President James K. Polk declared that Mexico had shed American blood upon American soil. May 13, 1846. The U.S. Congress declared war. Major campaigns and battles. Northern Mexico Campaign, 1846-47, led by General Zachary Taylor. Key battles: Palo Alto, Resaca de la Palma, and Monterrey. Taylor became a national hero. California and the West U.S. forces, supported by settlers in the Bear Flag Revolt, seized control of California. Naval forces also captured key ports like Monterrey and San Francisco. Mexico City Campaign, 1847, led by General Winfield Scott, landed at Veracruz and fought his way to Mexico City. Key battles: Cerro Gordo, Chapultepec, and the capture of Mexico City in September 1847. End of the war and treaty of Guadalupe, Hidalgo, signed on February 2, 1848. Mexico recognized the Rio Grande as the U.S. border. Mexico ceded a vast region to the U.S., present-day California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and parts of Colorado, Wyoming, and Texas. The U.S. paid Mexico $15 million and assumed $3.25 million in claims by U.S. citizens against Mexico. Aftermath and impact. 1. Territorial expansion. The U.S. gained over 500,000 square miles of new territory, about 1/3 of Mexico's former land. Tensions over slavery. The new territories reignited fierce debates over the expansion of slavery, setting the stage for the Civil War. Mexican political instability. The defeat led to internal upheaval in Mexico and long-lasting resentment toward the U.S. for U.S. military prestige. The war was a training ground for future Civil War leaders like Robert E. Lee, Ulysses S. Grant, and others. Further consequences for the U.S. 1. Expansion of slavery. Debate. The war sharply intensified sectional tensions between the North and South. The question: would slavery be allowed in the new territories? This led to major conflicts such as the Wilmot Proviso, 1846, which proposed banning slavery in the newly acquired lands. It failed but sparked massive debate. The eventual Compromise of 1850, which tried to ease tensions but sowed deeper division. Many historians view this war as an early trigger of the American Civil War, 1861-1865. Rise of new leaders. The Mexican-American War served as a proving ground for military officers. Ulysses S. Grant, later Union general in the Civil War; Robert E. Lee, future Confederate general; Stonewall Jackson, George Meade, and others. Grant later wrote in his memoirs that he thought the war was unjust and one of the darkest chapters in American history, despite fighting in it. Shaping U.S. borders. The territory gained, often called the Mexican Cession, formed the basis for California, statehood in 1850. New Mexico, Arizona, and more. This expansion made the U.S. a continental power stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Further consequences for Mexico. Massive territorial loss. Mexico lost over half of its territory. This loss devastated the Mexican economy. and national pride. The war left deep wounds in Mexican politics and society. Many Mexicans saw their government as weak or corrupt for allowing the defeat. Rise and fall of Santa Anna, General Antonio López de Santa Anna played a controversial role. He returned to power during the war, but was eventually overthrown. Seen by many as a symbol of Mexico's instability, after the war, Mexico cycled through numerous governments and military coups. National identity and resistance, the loss of territory, helped foster a stronger sense of Mexican nationalism. Many Mexicans, including writers and intellectuals, reflected on the war as a turning point in their national story. The U.S. became viewed with suspicion for decades after. Legacy today, the sea. War is still taught differently in the two countries. In the U.S., it's often seen as part of manifest destiny. In Mexico, it's seen as a national tragedy, a loss of life, land, and dignity. The U.S.-Mexico border issues, immigration debates, and territorial questions all have roots in this war. Absolutely. Let's go over the losses, both human and material, as well as a final summary of what each side sacrificed or gained. Human and economic losses, United States losses, combat deaths. Around 1,700 U.S. soldiers were killed in battle. Total deaths, including disease. Over 13,000 those, most died from diseases, like dysentery, cholera, and yellow fever. Wounded, about 4,200, financial cost, estimated at $100 million, a huge amount at the time. Public sentiment. Though the war was initially popular, especially in the South and West, anti-war opposition grew, particularly from northern abolitionists. Mexico's losses, combat deaths, estimated between 6,000 and 25,000 Mexican soldiers and civilians. Wounded, unknown, but likely far higher than U.S. numbers due to poor medical care and logistics. Civilian casualties. Many civilians died due to looting, food shortages, and disease outbreaks caused by the war. Economic impact. Mexico's economy was devastated. Entire regions were depopulated or wrecked. The loss of mineral-rich lands like California was a long-term blow. Political chaos. The war weakened central authority. Coups, revolts, and civil wars followed in the 1850s. Territorial losses and gains, U.S. gains, from the Treaty of Guadalupe, Hidalgo. Over 525,000 square miles of land, about 1/3 of Mexico's pre-war territory, included what is now California, Nevada, Utah, most of Arizona, and New Mexico, parts of Colorado. Wyoming and Texas paid Mexico $15 million and assumed $3.25 million in U.S. citizens' claims against Mexico. Mexico's losses: lost half its land, lost access to the Pacific Northwest and the future economic powerhouse of California, faced long-term political instability and border insecurity, felt deep national humiliation that influenced foreign and domestic policy for decades. What price? Would you like visuals like a before and after map, a timeline of major battles, or even a summarized version in bullet points or infographic style?